So, after this 24 election, there was a lot of nonsense. It was a realignment election. So, I just thought it was madness when you looked at the facts. In 2020, Donald Trump's coalition was 85% white. Okay, he did a little bit better 4 years later. It was 84% white. I don't think I'd start working about a whole, complete realignment of American politics if you're celebrating that now you're only losing African Americans by 88% instead of 94. I don't know. That seems a little weird to me. You're only losing Asian Americans by 68%. So they did better with Hispanics, though. In Bush world, we got up to about 44%. But this was something that then Governor Bush cared about very deeply. There is a whole different culture in Texas, Tex-Mex culture. There's so many families that are, have a Mexican father-in-law, or mother-in-law. There's just so much of that the vote in Texas has by Hispanic versus non-Hispanic has been less segmented than it has in other places like California, which is an interesting story, something probably to talk about another day. But if you go back to 1994, Pete Wilson was running for re-election of governor of California. He ran this infamous ad of Mexican Americans supposedly, coming up, people without papers, crawling over the border with this sort of Darth Vader voice, they keep coming. And since then, it's been almost impossible for a Republican to win statewide. George Bush ran in 94 in a very welcoming campaign for Hispanics. He believed in it. It was something that, we talk a lot about authenticity in politics. I don't think we really talked about it back then in 94, but it really came across as authentic. And his little side testament to that is 1999, I got hired to do the Bush campaign for president. He was in governor. So I got down to Austin, spring of 1999. First thing I ever filmed for then Governor Bush was opening a bridge between Mexico and the United States. A fucking bridge, not a wall. And I remember this vividly because I wandered off to shoot some B-roll and I missed the deadline for the motorcade to leave, and they left me in Mexico. And I called back in Austin and I said, guys, what the fuck? And they're like, yeah, you'll find your way here. Lots of people do it. So lesson to that, don't be late for the motorcade. But it just shows the difference in what it meant to be a Republican. I mean, Bush thought this was incredibly important. The first ad that we ever ran in the Bush campaign, people, to the extent anybody ever noticed this, they certainly don't talk about it. But we ran the first paid advertisement in the 2000 Bush for President campaign was a Hispanic radio ad on Hispanic radio in Iowa. Now, did we think that there was some massive hidden vote in the Iowa caucus that we could get out there? No, we didn't. We're not idiots. But we thought it was really important to send a message that even in the Iowa caucus, which is, about as white as the hockey finals in the Olympics, it was still important to send a message that this was something that the governor to be president cared about. So when we got up to 44% of the vote in 2004. So Trump did better with Hispanics. He got up to about 43%. And there was a sense that there had been some realignment. But no, his support was always economically driven. And, the Hispanic vote is a weird thing because it is a self-described demographic in the census. You decide if you're Hispanic or not. And it's interesting. It floats up and down. And at a certain point, there's sort of a variation of those who are Hispanic but speak English at home. And Republicans always did better at that. In the Romney campaign, he actually won Hispanics, where if they speak English at home. But at a certain point, it's like, when do you quit seeing yourself as Hispanic? Like when I first started working in Massachusetts in like 1990 for the governor's race for Bill Well, we would test Italian Americans. And then, like, I don't know, at some point we quit because the fact that they were voting wasn't being driven by the fact that they had an Italian American heritage any more than being Irish American. They were being driven. Those Italian Americans that, you know, had a certain demographic, socioeconomic status were voting different than those who didn't. It wasn't being driven by their ethnic heritage.